See, it's clear now. All the money goes to your brother, as stated in the will. No need to doubt it, said the person in charge of the will. What? Are we really allowed to take all this money? My husband asked, looking at me and my happy sister-in-law. The will says that my brother gets the whole $100 million inheritance from our father. I feel really sad reading it. Does this mean I've lost everything and have to stay with this terrible man forever? But then, my brother says one thing that changes everything. My name is Catherine. I'm 55 years old, and I'm a housewife. My husband's name is Robert, and we've been together without any children. Robert is what you might call a typical male chauvinist. Ever since we got married, he's been in charge, and I haven't been able to speak up or share my opinions. Robert is 10 years older than me. He doesn't treat me with any respect. I feel like I'm his servant, always doing household chores. And if I do something he doesn't like, he's quick to criticize me. He even blames me for us not having children, which makes me cry almost every day. I've thought about divorcing him, but I don't want to worry my family, and I don't have the money to support myself. So I've been enduring his mistreatment and trying to stay strong despite his hurtful words. The only person who gave me any emotional support was my father. My father used to be a successful businessman. He built a company from nothing and turned it into a big company. Even though he worked a lot, he cared for my brother and me in his own way. But after my mother died in a car accident shortly after I got married, my father threw himself into work even more, maybe to distract himself from the loneliness. It was clear that my father's excessive work had taken a toll on him. He had a stroke and had to go to the hospital. Thankfully, his life wasn't in danger, but he was paralyzed on his left side. This was the cost of pushing himself too hard for so long. I managed to convince him to retire. I was worried about him being alone, so I convinced my husband, and we moved in with my father. Once he stopped working, my father seemed to age quickly. He started showing signs of dementia and soon became bedridden and needed constant care. Taking care of my father on top of everything else was overwhelming. I had to handle the housework, look after my husband, and now take care of my father, who had dementia. Sometimes he would be quiet, but other times he would yell and move around a lot, especially at night, or he would wander off. I was always tired from lack of sleep, stress, and the constant work. But sometimes my father would have moments of clarity, and we could talk peacefully like we used to. He would often thank me and sadly smile, saying, "I want to leave you with as much as I can." After 3 years of taking care of my father, he passed away. While I felt relief from the burden of caring for him, losing my father, who was my only emotional support, left me feeling incredibly lonely and sad. My only hope now was my father's inheritance. The inheritance amounted to $100 million, which would be split evenly between my brother and me, making it $50 million for each of us. With that much money, I could finally escape from my awful husband. It was my only chance for a better life. A few days later, my husband Robert and our eldest son's wife Naomi called me to discuss the inheritance. My brother, Naomi's husband, had been working overseas for a while. He came back for the funeral but had just left again yesterday, so Naomi was there in his place. "We found your dad's will in the back of a drawer. Luckily, it wasn't sealed. So let's take a look at it right away," Naomi said. "A will? I didn't know there was one. I was taking care of my father every day, but I never saw him writing a will. It bothered me that my husband, who didn't care much for my father, knew about it. I felt uneasy and had a bad feeling," Catherine thought. "Let's read it," Robert suggested. "All of my assets will be inherited by my eldest son Ken, dated April 1st, John Smith," Naomi read aloud. "That's it?" Catherine couldn't believe what she was hearing. She always thought her father's estate would be split equally between her and her brother. It was hard to believe that all of her father's $100 million estate would go only to her brother. "Well, hold on a second. That doesn't make sense. Why would it be like that?" Catherine questioned. My husband handed me the will and urged me to look at myself as I started to panic. Sure enough, it was written in the will, with my father's signature. I immediately suspected that the will might be fake. My father had always been fair to both my brother and me, and he wouldn't have favored just one of us. But could my kind and honest brother really keep all the inheritance for himself? As I pondered this, my brother's wife burst into laughter. "Wow, we get to keep all of his money. It feels a bit wrong, but if that's what he wanted, We have to respect it, right? She said. I couldn't accept this at all. As I held the will silently, both my husband and my brother's wife glared at me. Hey, are you doubting this? If so, you can bring in a handwriting expert or something. Just because it's inconvenient for you doesn't mean you can start doubting it. You really have a bad attitude, my husband scolded. I'll do that, Catherine murmured quietly, deciding to have the will checked by an expert. To my surprise, the results showed that the will was undoubtedly written by my father himself. I was disappointed and fell into despair, thinking about the past. I had spent my life taking care of my husband and my father, enduring my husband's anger and hurtful words. It was painful, but the time I spent with my father was happy. I believe he cared for me too. The thought that my beloved father didn't care about me was more shocking and unbearable than not receiving the inheritance. I might have to leave this familiar house and land because they are part of my father's estate. My hope of divorcing my husband also seemed impossible now. When I told my husband about the appraisal result of the will at home over the weekend, he sneered at me with a self-righteous face. That settles it. All the inheritance goes to your brother. Don't go meddling in things anymore. The will was real. Always doubting, you worthless wife, he said, leaving the house after saying those words. Lately, my husband has been spending a lot of time away from home. He comes home from work very late, and he's often not home on weekends like this. I found it suspicious, but I tried to avoid seeing my husband as much as possible. Surprisingly, I felt relieved. Despite my husband's objections, I wanted to talk to my brother directly about the inheritance. Even though he worked overseas and was always busy, he was a kind and dependable person. I made sure beforehand that he wasn't too busy, then I gave him a call. After exchanging some brief greetings, my brother once again apologized for leaving the care of our father entirely to me and thanked me for handling the funeral and various procedures. Don't worry about it. By the way, Robert, about Dad's inheritance, was it always decided that you would be the sole heir? I tried to ask casually. It was hard to bear the thought that maybe I wasn't loved by my father, but I wanted to discuss it properly. Huh? What do you mean? All of the inheritance goes to me, my brother sounded surprised. I thought Naomi had told him, but it seems he was hearing about it for the first time. But the will was genuine, so the result wouldn't change. I explained the situation to my brother. I see. So the handwriting on the will is definitely Dad's, and that's all it said, huh? Got it. I'll need some time to think this through. I'll get back to you. I'll also make sure Naomi doesn't do anything until I've made a decision, my brother said before ending the call. I waited patiently for my brother's next move, feeling both intrigued and hopeful. A few days later, my brother contacted me again. He suggested that I look into Naomi's suspicious activities by hiring a private investigator. He also advised me to claim my rightful share from him. This legitimate share is the minimum amount of inheritance guaranteed to a family member, based on their position in the family. In my case, I could claim a portion from my father's $25 million inheritance. Even though the will said all the inheritance should go to my brother, this legal provision would still entitle me to inherit $25 million. However, my husband and my brother's wife were not happy with my decision. The decision has already been made. Don't mess it up now, they protested. But there was more to my brother's advice. I'm not asking for the $25 million. All I want is this house filled with memories of our father and the land. The total estate is worth $100 million, but the real estate property is only worth $10 million. I'll give up all the rest of the inheritance to my brother. Still, the two would then continue to argue. If this continues to escalate, my brother has instructed me to hire a lawyer to join the discussion. If it comes to that, I'm sure I'll inherit $25 million exactly, I asserted confidently. My husband and Naomi fell silent. Eventually, it seemed like they realized it was more beneficial to settle for the $10 million worth of real estate. We finally reached an agreement on how to divide the inheritance. A few days later, I received the results of an investigation I had requested about Naomi from a private investigator. I immediately contacted my brother. After many ups and downs, we successfully completed the process of inheriting our father's estate. My brother Ken rushed from abroad to help during the process. I inherited the family home and land, valued at $10 million. My brother inherited the rest of the estate, which amounted to $90 million. Naomi and my husband seemed pleased with how things were going as they had hoped. After finishing the inheritance process, the four of us left the law office and went back to our father's house. While enjoying a cup of tea in the living room, my brother spoke up, placing his smartphone on the table. "Great job, everyone. Now that we successfully inherited Dad's estate, there's something I want to discuss," he said with a smile. With that, he took out a document from his pocket and laid it out on the table. The expressions on my husband's and Naomi's faces turned pale as they read the contents. The document was titled, "It's a Will." At the end of it, there was my father's signature and stamp, dating back about 5 years ago. "This is a will that Dad gave to me when he was still working. It was made with 2 witnesses at a notary office, so it's legally valid," my brother explained. He continued, saying that our father had prepared it before he had a stroke. With his wife already passed away, he wanted to ensure his children would be taken care of if anything happened to him. The will stated that 1/4 of the total estate was to go to Ken, who already had a significant amount of wealth, and 3/4 to Catherine, the housewife. My brother gently held the will, explaining that our father had been clear about not changing it. He had stated in the will that any changes must have a reason stated, otherwise they would be considered invalid. It seemed our father, knowing the size of his estate, had prepared early to avoid any family conflicts. He was really pushing himself at work. I think he was considering all sorts of things, like what would happen if he fell gravely ill or became senile. My brother said, his hand caressing the will. The will also contained a heartfelt addendum. "I hope that there will be no conflicts over the inheritance and that the family will continue to live happily together." It was filled with our father's warm wishes for the family. Learning that I was loved by my father just as much as my brother touched me deeply, and my heart swelled with emotion. However, my husband and Naomi beside me grew pale. "So, if you're going to change this will, the reason has to be stated, or it's all null and void. Even if it's in my dad's handwriting, maybe he was forced to write it when he was in a delirious state due to dementia." My husband suddenly slammed the table with a fierce expression. He glared at my brother and growled, "Hey Ken, do you have any proof? Are you calling me a criminal?" "I never said you forged the will, did I, Robert?" My brother replied calmly, then glanced at his wife Naomi sitting next to him. Naomi remained silent, which struck me as odd. Naomi had informed me about our father's passing, and I had attended the funeral. However, after returning abroad, I hadn't been informed about anything regarding the inheritance despite it involving me. My brother seemed to be looking to his wife Naomi for some reason, but she still said nothing. "Stop your arguing. The inheritance is already decided. The $90 million is ours. It doesn't matter what you say now," my husband shouted back. "What do you mean by ours? I'm the one who inherited it," my brother countered calmly. "Shut up," my husband snapped. The conversation was going in circles. "I'm not sure what you mean, but the $90 million I inherited is just worthless paper," my brother said calmly. "What?" my husband exclaimed, surprised. My brother explained patiently. "Our father's estate was valued at $100 million. Apart from the real estate, all the assets were stocks in our father's company. When our father was in charge, the company was doing well, and the stocks were valuable. But after he stepped down, the company started losing money, and it looked like it might go bankrupt. In the 3 years before he died, the stocks that were once worth over $90 million became practically worthless." But that can't be true, can it?" my husband stammered. "It's the truth. I inherited knowing that. I plan on restructuring my father's company, and since it didn't involve you, I didn't tell you," my brother explained. My husband seemed shaken and muttered to himself. He couldn't seem to accept the reality of the situation. That's when Naomi finally spoke up for the first time. "Hold on, wait a minute. What are you saying? Are you saying I inherited worthless stocks while Catherine got $10 million? That's not fair," Naomi exclaimed loudly. Beside Naomi's outburst, my brother sighed. "Naomi, I inherited our father's estate. You weren't at a disadvantage in any way. Why are you so upset?" But I thought we were getting all of that $100 million. I had plans for it." My husband glared sharply at the flustered Naomi. "So you and Robert were plotting to get all of our father's money, and while doing that, you were having an affair, weren't you?" my brother accused. Naomi and my husband remained silent, frozen in place. "Why?" Naomi muttered hoarsely. My brother glanced at her before continuing. "After our phone call, I started suspecting Naomi. Why didn't you talk to me about the inheritance?" Why had her interactions with me been so brief lately, and why had she started ignoring my calls? I thought something was fishy, and when I saw her pictures on social media, I knew she was cheating on me. And soon, I'll be getting a lot of money. I'll be living like a famous person. I've been discussing with my girlfriend how we'll spend it. She said we'll have a blast when we get the money. I'm thrilled. But Naomi, I don't recall talking about this with you. I wonder who this girlfriend is. No, wait. You're misunderstanding, Naomi interrupted. Ignoring his confused wife, my brother brought out a bait envelope. He took some photos out and placed them next to the will. They showed Naomi and Robert going into a hotel together, looking very close. It was obvious they were in a tight relationship. I've been overseas, you know. I hired a private investigator to look into things because I was curious about your girlfriend, my brother said, showing the solid proof. Naomi started trembling. Looking at Naomi's affair partner, my husband, I noticed he was furious, completely red-faced, which was quite different from the pale Naomi. Curse you, poking around like some creep. What's all this nonsense about your silly will in these photos? It's absurd. My husband exploded. Stop. Suddenly, Naomi raised her voice. She approached my brother with a fake charm, like a bad actor. Hey, you're mistaken. It's all a mix-up. It's all Robert's fault. He convinced me that if I went along with him, I'd get all of your dad's money. Hey, wouldn't you want to get $100 million? I thought it was for your own good. My husband, who felt deeply hurt, stared at Naomi in shock. This photo, we were just fooling around. You were always away, and I felt lonely. But you're also to blame, right? Please forgive me. The $90 million is off the table now. Let's take the $10 million from Catherine's property. Did you fake the will? I asked. Huh? No way. Robert did it. He said it was simple and had it written by your dad. Look, it's not my fault, Naomi explained. When the truth about the fake will came out, my husband got furious and tried to attack Naomi, but my brother stepped in quickly. You jerks. You've got nothing on me. You'll pay for this in hell. My husband yelled, kicking a chair. While he raged, my brother calmly watched and casually took out his phone. Oh, looks like my phone was recording the whole time since we got home. I forgot to turn it off. My husband went pale and fell silent. By the way, I didn't mention it earlier, but this room has security cameras that record everything. I installed them because of Dad's bad memory, just in case something happened, my brother added. In the quiet room, only my brother kept speaking. Forging a will is a serious crime. Your earlier threat could get you in legal trouble. There's a police station nearby, and they'd be here soon if we report it. But since the inheritance matter is settled now, and if you promise not to touch Catherine's things again, maybe we don't need to involve the police. What do you say? While saying this, my brother began using his phone. I might as well send this recording to my computer overseas. After silently watching everything, I pulled a document from my bag and handed it to my husband. Robert, I want a divorce. Wait, hold on. Think about this. I'm sorry. We've been together for so long, haven't we? Who do you think has been providing for you all this time? My husband pleaded. I've had it. No more excuses. Either agree to the divorce or I'm calling the police, I said firmly, gripping my smartphone tightly with a determined expression. Robert slumped his shoulders and nodded. Naomi, it's over between us. You were planning to take the money and be with Ken, weren't you? I heard your conversations with him from a private investigator, I accused. Naomi hung her head, covering her face with her hands. After our divorces, my brother and I went our separate ways. Robert moved out of the house, thinking he had secured his significant inheritance, only to find out it was worthless. Naomi revealed the truth about the forged will, and everything that unfolded in the living room was captured on camera. Robert must have been furious, but he was powerless. The surveillance camera, initially installed for my father's care, also documented evidence of Robert's emotional abuse. Even if I had inherited my father's assets, I planned to use them as evidence in a divorce trial if Robert resisted. When I shared this with my brother, he suggested we utilize the camera too. After the divorce, rumors of Robert's affairs spread at his workplace, leading to him losing his job. His colleagues had seen him frequenting hotels with a woman who wasn't his wife. With his parents gone and now jobless and homeless, Robert vanished. While I had sought a portion of his assets, I wanted nothing more to do with him, especially after inheriting some wealth. Naomi, the woman Robert cheated with, faced the same downfall as him. Despite pleading, "I don't want us to end. Please don't leave me." During the divorce proceedings with my brother Ken, the divorce was finalized when solid evidence was presented during mediation. Naomi had been spending recklessly while Robert was absent, but she was stuck with the bills, leaving her with nothing. Since she hadn't been working and had no home to go back to like Robert, she's now struggling to get by in a rundown public housing project, relying on welfare. Meanwhile, my brother Ken continues to work overseas, but he's selling the house he shared with Naomi and will be moving in with me into our father's house. With Ken's financial help, my life has become more stable, and I've been able to live comfortably. The value of the land left by my father has been steadily increasing, now worth over $100 million. Free from the responsibilities of caring for my dad and the emotional abuse from my ex-husband, I'm finally living a peaceful life, with time for myself. Alone in a spacious house, I started to think about how to make the most of it. Around that time, I watched a TV show about foreign exchange students staying with host families, and it gave me an idea. I decided to open up my spare rooms for rent. I offer affordable rooms to college and exchange students, and now my house is bustling with life. We share meals, play games, and help each other with schoolwork. It feels like we're one big happy family. On days when I have some free time, I enjoy reading books at the local library. Since I don't have kids of my own, and my marriage had drifted apart, I used to worry about being lonely after losing my father. But now, my days are filled with energy and joy. Even at my age, it's fulfilling to connect with young people and give back to the community in my own small way. There were times when life seemed too hard to handle, but now I have my brother, my roommates, and the people in my neighborhood to share life with. Every day is filled with contentment and happiness. I'm grateful for the simple joy I've found.